Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Science, Planets, and Stellar Rhythms. This is Erik Roth here to present a outlook for August 2025 and the astrological happenings for this upcoming month. This is episode 71 in this series. I take a look in this series. I'm really presenting and looking at each and every month and also other kinds of alignments that might be taking place that don't fall into the category of the planets and signs series, which I have as a separate category on my YouTube channel here. All right, without further ado, let's get into the month of August. Okay, so this is just the highlights. So Venus moved into the sign of Cancer at the end of July 30th. And I'm covering more of it in the August because it spends the majority of its time in the sign of Cancer during this upcoming month of August. And then it also moves into the sign of Leo. And I'm highlighting that too because there's some really powerful alignments between Venus and Pluto and other planets as it first moves into the sign of Leo. There's also Mars-Saturn opposition, Mars and Mars-Neptune opposition during this time, part of a larger complex. Venus also moves into conjunction with Jupiter while in Cancer. Mercury will end its retrograde this month, of course, covering the full and new moons. The sun moves into Virgo, and the eclipse season begins. So there's a little, particularly the Venus and Leo and the Venus alignments with Pluto and the eclipse season beginning. That's going to be at the end of the video, so stay tuned to watch all the way through to be able to pay attention to that part of the video because those are some really big things that are taking place. All right. So August is kind of roaring in on the heels of a very transformational month of July. A lot of activities taking place that are also going to really flow into this month of August. So August won't necessarily we won't necessarily catch a break. There's definitely going to be a lot taking place, and but it also is not where any of the outer planets are moving into new signs. A few of them will retrograde back into their the previous signs in the fall, September, October, November, and December. So the rest of the year, we're going to get that three of them: Saturn, Neptune, and not Pluto, Uranus will be retrograding back to their previous sign. We had 5 planets stationed retrograde in the month of July, which I haven't seen before as a practicing astrologer. Of course, I haven't done much research on that. But from my experiences, I haven't, as I go through and look at the months, look at the years, I've never seen so many planets going retrograde around the same time. I'm sure that there have been times where things like this have happened in a short period of time. So it's something that is worth researching down the road. So there's only one change of direction in the month of August, and that's Mercury going direct on August 11th. So the Saturn-Neptune flow that's been sort of dominating the landscape really since March of this year is going to continue through August and the rest of this year into the first 3 months of next year, 2026. So August won't be an exception to that. Saturn-Neptune will still be within a degree for much of this month. Mars is going to play a key role in that Saturn-Neptune alignment, and so is Venus. And Mars will also be playing a key role in the Eris-Chiron alignment, but that doesn't come until September. So that's the majority of things. There's a really powerful full moon taking place right around this Mars-Saturn, Mars-Neptune opposition, and the new moon takes place just before the Venusian alignments take place at the end of the month of August as well. So the outer planets, this is just an overview. You can pause here and kind of look at what each of these outer planets are doing here. But Saturn and Neptune are going to be within a degree until August 23rd. And they don't conjunct officially conjunct until February 20th of 2026. As of September 1st, Saturn will retrograde back into Pisces. So this is the last month that Saturn is in the sign of Aries until February of 2026. Neptune is slowly retrograding back from 2 degrees Aries all the way back to 119 Aries. Uranus still in Gemini, still moving direct throughout the month, and will go all the way to 127 Gemini, and really is going to be a kind of a standstill for a couple of weeks until it starts to kind of retrograde a little bit more towards the end of September and beyond. And it's part of this larger uh, mini grand trine and double sextile with Pluto, which is also retrograding throughout August all the way back to 146 Aquarius. You can see all of these 4 planets, they're all at the beginning of their signs. And so they're really having this really powerful relationship with each other. And then we have Eris and Chiron, which are at towards the end of the sign of Aries, and 25 and 26 degrees of Aries. And they're going to still be very prominently featured towards the end of the year as well. So these are providing the backdrop and in some cases full force of some parts of August, especially with Saturn and Neptune. Okay, so Venus in Cancer. So Venus starts out the month of August in Cancer. It moves into Cancer on July 30th. The recording of this video is July 27th, 2025. And so it's, you know, there's some people that are going to watch at the beginning of August, this video beginning or middle of August. And so, you know, this as of the filming of this, you know, we're just before Venus moves into Cancer here. So this period of Venus's journey takes it through a sign that emphasizes the heart, compassion, and family responsibilities. Now, it's also something that it can open up a greater focus to boundaries around family, community, and nation. And Venus in Cancer will have several aspects, especially on August 1st, with Saturn and Neptune when it squares those 2 planets, respectively. And then on Jupiter on August 11th, it'll be in conjunction at 14 degrees and 3 minutes. And then it'll square Eris and Chiron at 25 and 26 degrees Aries on August 21st. So there are those things that to watch out for as we look at that. It squares Eris on August 21st and Chiron on August 22nd. So there we go. So due to these aspects, it could result in more of like our feelings being triggered or a kind of emotional energy coming to the surface more, and maybe even more of this sense of nativism and tribalism that can show up in this way. But at its most, beneficial side, we can say healthy side, it can actually expand its desire for compassion, especially while it's with Jupiter in the middle of the month, beginning to the middle of the month. It can expand that definition and expand it beyond just family and home and, say, religion or community and nation to include all peoples. So there's the potentiality every time Venus and Jupiter are together in Cancer, which only happens again, usually only once, maybe twice in a 12 to 13 month period. But that's, we don't have too many opportunities in that way. But Jupiter being Cancer by itself, and it will be in Cancer throughout the month of August as well, going all the way past 10 degrees, actually, I think close to 15 degrees by the end of August there. So this is kind of continue to expand our horizons. But again, anytime we're getting involved in Cancer, it's not just things that exist to benefit us, but there could be things where it can activate the shadow in others as well. So something to watch out for there. Mars in Libra. Mars moves into the sign of Libra on August 6th. It'll be in Libra until September 22nd. And there's 2 simultaneous impacts just on the basic Mars and Libra front. Um, this is without even bringing in Saturn and Neptune, and then later in September, Eris and Chiron. But Mars in Libra can be an antithesis to the most resonant sign of Aries. So it can have two simultaneous impacts. So it's not just one or the other. So can it be a softening of conflicts, maybe more opportunities to have dialogue, conversations, meetings between partners that are having trouble getting together, and especially nations. We've been seeing some significant brewing of conflicts throughout the last few years, and then recently Thailand and Cambodia started fighting. Whether that's going to be resolved or not, as of this recording, I don't think it's fully resolved. I think that there's still some possibilities, some perhaps some shouting matches taking place, or maybe even still some bombing or gunfire to still happening. Um, but Libra is about supporting also a rise in the countering of the energies of war and more hardened stances in the world. So Libra at its highest level can be the sort of the ultimate negotiator and diplomat, and really make it fair across the table for all as much as possible. At least that's its ideal version. In practice, it doesn't always end up in that way, as we see a lot of. But it's about bringing together relationships, and that can start, on a basic level between friends and family members, and then growing from there to larger groups and so forth. Diplomacy, negotiations, arbitration, and building friendships, community more. It can also highlight the shadow of Libra as well, codependencies, especially codependencies. So something to be aware of as Mars gets in Libra that could create a little bit more tension in that area if you're already kind of in the deep into the some unhealthy or toxic relationships. And so it could foster more of like, okay, is this really something I really, really want? And maybe it's steering you toward other kinds of relationships that are healthier. So, on a broader level, the oppositions to Saturn, Neptune, Eris, and Chiron could certainly create more intense and challenging path uh, to being able to have more peaceful relations. But it doesn't mean that those planets and their opposition to Mars are going to create a lot of bad impacts. Again, this could intensify and highlight and shape the potentiality of us being able to come to the table. And even people that don't really like each other much, there is that potential here for some agreements to take place. And that's how it can really begin. Dialogue, of course, being the precursor to any kind of agreement there. Um, so this Mars, Saturn, Neptune thing is more about this here. August 8th and 9th, Mars goes into opposition with Saturn and Neptune, respectively, at 1 degree and 20 minutes Libra Aries, and 1 degree 50 minutes Libra Aries. So only half a degree difference in August 8th and 9th as Mars goes through there. And in the middle of all that, we actually have a full moon in Aquarius taking place. So that is a really powerful and intense time. Um, this may bring about kind of greater pressure and feelings, and the polarity that includes resistance to abide by the rules, especially with Saturn, and a stress point to cooperate and follow them. So the Mars-Saturn alignment could really impact when it comes to rules and laws, and whether we're going to resist that, or we're going to follow that, and or what could maybe even come together and find a way to find a happy medium in between all of that. So they're going to be in a kite formation if you include um, pattern, if you include Pluto and Uranus into this. I'm going to show you an image of this right here. But Mars will be within 5 degrees of these oppositions between August 1st and 17th. So it's like that's the window. August 8th and 9th are going to be the center of that. But that's the window I would give for like some significant influence here. The tighter the orb, of course, the tighter the opposition, the more the potential for that opposition to have an impact in our lives. So here it is. Here's the opposition here, and it's working, this is the one that's shown is Mars-Saturn. And then the next day it's Mars and Neptune. Because Mars tends to move, somewhere around a half a degree to three-quarters of a degree per day, somewhere in that zone, depending on how far away it was from its retrograde period and how close it might be to its next one. So usually 1.5 to 2 months it takes to move through a sign. And so that's kind of in that zone of moving about uh close to three-quarters of a degree or two-thirds of a degree per day. So with only Saturn and Neptune being a half degree from each other, and then we get this oncoming full moon on the 9th. So this is the day, this is, going to be right on the edge here. So Mars will only have moved 8 more minutes by the time that full moon comes around. And so it's emphasizing this focal point between Uranus and Pluto being the other part of the kite aspect or pattern here, and Mars kind of directing the traffic. So it's like funneling the energy to this area, and then this area, Saturn and Neptune are kind of leading the way, all playing a role in this paradigm shift that we're having, and the polarization between hope and hopelessness, but also of connecting with our voice and showing up for the injustices in the world and in our own lives, like where have we been wronged, or where can we take a constructive approach that is healthy to give voice to what we desire in our life, and calling out what needs to be called out in the world. So that is part of what this alignment is about, and then the full moon will have a little bit of a different kind of an energy as it shows up as well in this particular alignment here. All right, so now this full moon, when we're looking at it here, it's going to be just slightly below the ecliptic. It's going to be low in the sky, and it'll be in this goatfish constellation. You won't be able to see in a full moon, the stars immediately around the moon, unless they're really, really bright stars. Most of those stars will be kind of washed out in the brightness of that moon. And then Saturn and Neptune are right over here in the fish constellation. And you can't see Neptune with the naked eye unless you had, of course, if you had telescope or high-powered binoculars, you can really make out Neptune in that. But if you see Saturn, Neptune is going to be right there. And you can see Saturn in the middle of the night time period right now. It's going to become more and more visible in the coming weeks, and to more and towards the evening time rather than the middle of the night and early morning time. So anytime you see the full moon in June, July, and August, it's going to be relatively low into the sky. Now, if you're in the southern hemisphere, it'll be a totally different experience. Things are kind of a flip upside down, if you will, or even close to the equator. The moon won't look so low, but where most people live in the northern hemisphere, the moon is going to look fairly low in the sky at its fullness in these June, July, and August period. So this full moon is at 16:59 of Aquarius and happens at 12:54 a.m. Pacific daylight time. And you can see the alignment here. But you can see this aspect, this really interesting aspect. Its forge is actually this really interesting rectangular formation with an X going down the center, and that's something I'm going to talk about more in the full moon video that I do with Kaylin Castell in my full moon series. So look out for that. That'll be posted at I think the very beginning of August is when I think I'll be uploading that particular video. So stay tuned for that. But if you made a line from Saturn Neptune to the sun, and a line from the moon and even this asteroid Pallas Athena to Mars, and then you box that in here, you come up with this rectangular pattern, which has some more subtle alignments or aspects that can end up also influencing the way this full moon and this opposition between Mars, Saturn, and Neptune also play a role in our in the humanities' lives. Okay, so the Sabian symbol of the full moon is going to be 17 Aquarius. It's a watchdog standing guard, protecting his master and his possessions. Um, Guardianship, things that stand guard and protect. Be on the alert, the worry of loss, alarms, protection, security, survival, using guards or bouncers or anything that can, anxieties and alert status. The interpretation that I get initially from sort of this symbol is that it has to do with our insecurities and our fears. And it's like also our controls over our surroundings. How much can we control? And are those fears and insecurities warranted? Or are we doing too much? Is it too much? Are we not letting in the light? Are we closing ourselves off to everything around us? Building our own fortress around ourselves? Or is it something that and if it points that out for us, maybe it's time to kind of open up the shades and maybe it's time to let in the light and maybe step outside and take some breaths. Obviously there's sometimes these things can be warranted, especially if outside there could be, civil violence taking place, arrests taking place. You might be in an unsafe environment in some way. So having that setup can be, beneficial to you. But if it's not anything like that, then this could be where you can be overdoing in the security department. So again, a watchdog and especially with the symbolism of protection and guardian and guarding and possessions, that those are really three key words, I think, that represent this interesting moon, this full moon. And in Aquarius, this could even represent more of an experimentation of that and maybe innovating that and doing it differently where there may be some flexibility, some consciousness expansion that can happen during this full moon. And this is taken from Linda Hill's Sabian Oracle book, which is a great, like, if you're just wanting to kind of get into the entry level and understand what that each degree is a symbol. Linda Hill's book's really good, and she was influenced a lot by Dane Rajar, astrologer Mark Edmund Jones as well, in his work. So both of those, this is definitely recommended if you're wanting to get into that. Um, so here's August 11th. Here's the full moon, not the full moon, but the Venus-Jupiter conjunction. So just a few days after this full moon and the Saturn Mars opposition and the Neptune Mars opposition, we have a Venus-Jupiter conjunction. And then at the same day, Mercury stations direct. So you're seeing this, and that's also its own aspect as well. So Venus and Jupiter station direct at 1403 Cancer. I'm sorry, Venus and Jupiter conjunct 1403 Cancer, and Mercury stations direct at 417 Leo. So something to pay attention to. Again, this is part of that part of the month between August 6th and August 11th. That is, I think, pretty powerful 5 to 6 day period here for humanity. But this Jupiter-Venus conjunction in Cancer, I think is, ideally it can expand our opportunities around when it comes to compassion and heart and empathy. And, are we protecting too much? And maybe if we kind of expand our definition of what we consider family and friends and open that up, open the doors up a little bit, open the fences, open the walls, this might help us do that. But at the same time, this can expand a person's need for even more protective measures for their household and their community, so that it could lead to more sort of this nativism. We can see that Mercury has, when it stations direct, it's only a couple degrees from its opposition to Pluto. Now, it doesn't go into opposition with Pluto again, since it entered Leo um, uh, back in the end of June of 2025. But here we have an opportunity to look at our vision and see where we're not letting the light, looking at the shadow of all of that. These are some great opportunities for us on individuals. And this may, if you've got any Cancer energy or anything in Leo, especially in the beginning degrees of Leo, you're this is something that's going to be impactful in your life for sure. So here's the Mercury stationing direct. And yeah, Mercury was in Leo from June 26th to September 2nd. Um, Mercury stations direct on August 11th. So Mercury is in Leo. It's a bold solar perspective and mind that enters a time of reemergence of our vision, creative desires to manifest what we want in the material realm. It's also about our self-love coming into greater cohesion through intuitive leadership within and without. Mercury will remain in the sign of Leo until September 2nd. So really, this fiery element, this instead of the introspection and the reflection period, this with Leo going to with Mercury going direct, it could kind of propel us forward a little bit more when it comes to our mind and our vision. Then the sun, there's this period where you really don't have much happening between the 11th and the 21st. I mentioned on the 21st that there is a Venus square to Eris, and then on the 22nd, there's a Venus square to Chiron. And so both of those happen on right around the same time as the sun enters the sign of Virgo. So, this sun enters new sign every month. And Virgo is about the season of Virgo is about details, patterns, analytics, and even more important, a time of sacred work. It's also a time traditionally of like where we're having the most harvest in our lives, with the farms in the world. And that's Virgo has a really strong connection to the harvest of crops, vegetables, and fruits and other things. So in this season, it's kind of represents the archetype of the priestess priest, the druid. It's a sign that reminds us of what is sacred in this world and about this world. So some really deep connections with Mother Earth. With this Earth sign, what does it mean to be sacred in our life? We can also ask how we can be of service and create and maintain order and manage the chaos in a way that serves the greater spirit of humanity and the planet. Now, there will be a Sun Uranus opposition just a day after this. So something to consider when we're looking at this, that Uranus is going to play a role in not opposition, I'm sorry, square. That Uranus will play a role in the sun's journey into Virgo here. And then the new moon takes place less than half a day after the sun ingresses into Virgo. So we have Venus squaring Eris. We have sun in Virgo. We have the new moon in Virgo. And then we also have the square to Uranus and the sun, all within this really short period of time. And then a couple days later, we have Venus moving into Leo, and a major alignment that takes place at that time as well with Venus. So more about this Virgo new moon, which takes place right after the sun moves into the sign of Virgo. 0 degrees Virgo. This conjuncts the star Regulus as well, the heart of the Lion constellation. If there was truly a different kind of, like, if we were to look at like when would be a great time for quote the Lion's Gate for this particular year? This new moon in Virgo, this would be it. Now, the other planetary alignments certainly are showing up big time when it comes to Lionsgate. If you're wondering about Lionsgate, in fact, I'll just probably have a link below that you can link to because I did a whole video about the Lionsgate last year that you can look at and watch. That is kind of a evergreen video that you can look at. Um, and more about that in that video here. Get too much to talk about without going into the Lionsgate, but certainly that plays a role in this particular season here and the Lion constellation and the priestess archetype Virgo. So this is about sacred patterns and service. And really, since it's in the Lion constellation, it's also connects us to, our voice and speaking about our vision and owning our vision, owning who we are and what we want in our lives. This is this is that this is that new moon. Now, it also has a Sabian symbol associated with it too. So with the sun in Virgo, the new moon actually takes place in the Lion constellation conjunct Regulus. But one Virgo is a portrait. The best of a man's traits and characteristic are idealized. This can, the key words, and again, this is Linda Hill's book, Sabian Oracle, projection of beauty, drawings, paintings, photos, art, cosmetics, beauty salons, hairstyles, elevated thoughts and or memories, taking someone at face value, visual senses and clues, recognition, caricatures, highlighting features, visual prototypes, profiles, face reading, written reviews and references, viewpoints. So this can be interpreted about the benefits and challenges of self-analysis, but it's also in recognizing the nature of oneself while also seeing the wisdom, reality, or even falsehood protections that can be placed upon us by others and how they see us. So really, when we think of perspective, I would say that that word perspective probably dominates like really a lot of us. When we look in the mirror, we can see ourselves, but we might see a different viewpoint as when others see us, and maybe they're doing the portrait, or they're doing, or we're doing the portrait of ourselves, perhaps like a painter sometimes does. So this is an opportunity to kind of look at ourselves and yeah, at this, there is certainly an emphasis of our voice and our vision, and maybe that could be even reflected in our own portrait as well, and how we see ourselves. So Venus and Leo, Venus started out in the month of Cancer, but now goes into the sign of Leo on August 25th, and that'll go on all the way until September 19th. So this part of Venus's journey emphasizes self-love, boldness, creative forces, and being a vision carrier in one's life. Venus is a more passive planet relative to Mars, which is highly active. However, in the sign of the sign of Leo, this can help Venus shine brightly in our hearts and desire to be recognized. This is when the feminine can take on a new, more fierce leadership role that cannot be ignored. So while in the sign of Leo, Venus will immediately go into opposition with Pluto on August 26th, 151 Leo, while Pluto's in Aquarius, also forming this triple sextile with Uranus, Saturn-Neptune, which is, I group them together because at this time, they're still a little, just over a degree from each other, and also Pluto is the third one. So here's the alignment here. You can see Pluto and Venus opposite each other here. You're seeing Saturn, Neptune. They're only a little over a degree apart here. And then Uranus kind of completes that. So one sextile, two sextiles, three sextiles. And if the moon later in the day, actually, I think maybe August 27th, the moon will be forming like another part of that pattern as it starts to move into Scorpio. And so that'll be a square to Venus and to Pluto and then there'll be an inconjunct relationship to Uranus, Saturn, and Neptune as well. So this is really powerful stuff that's coming through here. Okay, this eclipse season beginning. The reason it begins like now, the eclipses don't take place until September. But anytime the sun gets within about 16 degrees, again, it's a guideline. It's not perfectly exact because sometimes it might not be a full or any kind of even just a minor eclipse, even sometimes even when it gets that close. But that's usually the maximal extent of the potential for an eclipse to happen. So the sun needs to be within 16 degrees of a lunar node. So there are two eclipses that take place on September 7th, a lunar eclipse, a total lunar eclipse, and then a near total solar eclipse on September 21st. During this time, the lunar nodes themselves slow in their regular movement to a near standstill for about a month period. And so the eclipse season, meaning the sun's uh, orb conjunction period with the nodes. In this case, it's going to be conjuncting the south node. Um, the moon's it will be all the way until September 26th. So August 26th to September 26th, again, usually about a 30 to 32 day period, depending on the you know uh, the time of year that it does this. And so yeah, so some signs it doesn't move nearly as many days through that sign as it does, say, like in Northern Hemisphere in the summer months. It takes a little while, particularly in the months of July and August, to move through. And September is 30 days too. So it's kind of on the edge of that. So you get about a 31, 32 day period here. So yeah, just so you're aware, the eclipse season, even though the eclipses are in September, it begins in August, the end of August. So all of this is happening right there. And I want to point out, I don't have everything listed here, so I just want to first note that. But, before, if you look, there's nothing here on the 21st, but there is a Venus-Eris square here. And on the 22nd, there's also a Venus-Chiron square. There's also a Venus-Moon conjunction on the 20th. So there's this period between the 13th and the 19th where there's not really much in the way of major aspects taking place. It doesn't mean nothing is taking place and it's just you're good to go and you don't have to worry about anything. It just means it's not of all the major alignments that are taking place. I'm highlighting the primary ones here. And really it's in two groups. We have it between the 6th and the 12th, and really 6th and 11th. And then roughly the 20th through the 26th is that period of time that you want to pay attention to. We do have in the beginning of August this Venus squaring Saturn and Neptune taking place. So something to pay attention to. And as things go on, if you follow my social media, I'll be posting some things that are in the middle of the month and at the very end of the month that look blank here. So there'll be other things that you'll get to read about and see as I talk about this. But down below, you can see here, I've got the Kite aspect, the pattern, with Mars, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto right there between the 8th and the 9th. And the triple sextile aspect with Venus, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto there too. All showing up in those two periods there, roughly about a little over 2 weeks from each other there. About 2.5-ish weeks, between 2 and 2.5 weeks, I guess we can call it that. So yeah, that's what I've got for August 2025. And thank you for watching this video all the way through. I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. That really helps me and I'm able to do more when I get more subscriptions and things. I'll be able to build this channel more and more and create more content, particularly astrological educational content. And so more to come. You can go to my website, spiralnexus.com, for information about, my readings, my mentoring classes that I teach. I even do night sky gatherings. You can also go to mystaralchemy.com, where I do online courses with astrologer Kaylin Castell. So thank you very much, and I wish you all a great rest of your day.